Hi everyone, it's Reem, and this is the final product on the makeup tutorial that I did today. If you really like this look, please stay tuned. The inspiration for this look is Charice's Pyramid album. My mom absolutely loves her. The reason that I chose to do the picture from this album is because her brown skin is highlighted, and I think that Filipino women like myself and my family members have beautiful brown skin, and I wanted to make sure that that's something that's highlighted in this tutorial. So please rate, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think about it, let me know if there's any other looks that you want to do, and enjoy! What I've already done is I've primed and put foundation all over my face, and I've used a foundation, like I said, that matches my skin color, and that's because in the picture that Charice has on the pyramid cover, she's very tan, and Filipino women, like I said, have beautiful brown skin, and we should highlight that. We shouldn't try and make it lighter. So the first thing that I'm going to be using is the NYX eyeshadow, and I'm only going to be using this. And I use the lighter color for my for the entire lid. Oh, I'm going to make this one lighter. So I pat on the color onto just above my crease. And then I do windshield wiper movements across so that it evens out the color. And I take a little inside. And what I do next is I take the brown color and the silver color, and I tap into the brown color, then I tap into the silver color, and then what I do is I make a little line down here, and then I go all the way across the arch of my eye, and this creates a shadow to make my eyes look almond shaped. And what the other thing that you need to do is to make sure that you stay just under the crease, because what we'll be doing is sweeping it right across and then blending it in. And in order to blend it in, I use a blending brush, and I just go and I blend it all the way across. And what this does is it stops any lines from occurring, so it looks like one uniform palette. And I go in again. And you can already see how it lifts my eye and is forming a really nice V shape. And there we go. And finally, what I do is I take bronzer, and you can use any bronzer, however, I like to use a bronzer with a little shimmer in it, and I use that to highlight the inside of the eye, and that really changes the way that the dark color looks. And I also use it to highlight my brow bone all the way down. And what I do is, once I get to the crease, I just shade it a little bit. And the reason for that is so that it doesn't look like two separate lines. Okay. And then what I do is I notice that in the Charice picture, she has a very defined eye. However, her eyes are different than mine. And so what I've done for anyone who has eyes that look like Charice's, you would want a much thicker black line. And I use a gel liner. And it's interesting because the gel liner is the most waterproof, and it does give you the darkest line. So I use a gel liner, and I get some on a lining brush, And I have to look in the mirror for this. And what you do is, I don't know if you could see this, but you make a line, you basically make little lines right next to each other and then join them all the way across. And then what you want to do while you're smoothing it out is you take a line from the bottom of your eye, and that makes a really nice point. So, and it helps define your eye a lot more. What I like is when this tip actually matches, kind of flows into the middle of my eye. And the reason for that is I just like the way that it frames my eye much, much better. Okay, and I notice as well that Charice's eyebrows are very, very free and loose because she's young and very pretty, and so I've kind of just left my eyebrows, although mine are very arched and defined. Hers are a little more, you know, the arch is much more natural. I would suggest that if you have beautiful natural arches like hers, just leave them because it really is gorgeous. And so, finally, what I do is I like to use the same bronzer, and I just put it up on the top of my cheek, and then up on the top of my cheek here as well. And I just noticed that I have a little bit of a boo-boo right there. And so what do you do to fix that? You actually can just gently wipe it away once it's dry, because gel liner does dry a little, and so you can just let it dry and then just sweep it away. If when it's wet you try and wipe it, it's gonna wipe right across your face, so you don't want to do that. And okay, and I notice as well, so what I'm trying to do is try as much as possible to adapt the picture that I saw to me. And so because I already have pretty brown skin, I just use a highlighter, and I like the highlight that it gives as well. She is also very young, and she wouldn't put a lot of makeup on, so she has a very pink lipstick on, and I find that that's just too harsh to go outside with, so I use a more neutral pink so that it's not as aggressive with your face. And I just use a little bit across, and I love neutral pinks because they give you much more of a natural look. As well, you can wear them all the time, day or night. Really, really cool. So, once it's done, take your hair out, and it's actually pretty simple. There it is.